Well, hello and welcome to Office 365 training. My name's Nick Beaujard. During this training, we're going to take you through how to administer Office 365. The key things we'll go through during this training is how to get to the start screen, how to perform administration, how to navigate around it. We're going to look at the administration of users, groups, and domains. We're going to look at the administration and default settings you should have for Lync. We're going to have a little bit of a look at SharePoint administration. And then what we do if you are a migration customer of ours is we spend some time talking about your migration. Now this training happens right at the beginning of the process of moving to the modern practice. Office 365 is a core part of the solution, and so we're going to work through this training to get you up to speed on how those things work. So when you log into portal.office.com, you get to the Office 365 start screen. And using that start screen, you can do a whole bunch of things, but down the bottom, you'll see the button that says admin. And that takes you to the administration center. And that's where we're going to spend most of our time during this training. So the administration center really has a bunch of different areas when you first log in. If I go through them, over on the right, we have the current health of Office 365 and its various components, and you can drill in there to see if anything's wrong with the system. Next to that, we have the service overview, and that gives you some metrics and some information on your Office 365 platform and how it's working. On the left, we do most of our management. Users, contacts, and groups are managed here. Domains, which is DNS or domain name system, is managed here. You can see external sharing can be set up by clicking there and working out who can get access to your data and who can see presence and link information. And administering the various services that make up Office 365, SharePoint, Lync, and Exchange, is done down there on the left. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to focus on user management. And we're going to focus on three core scenarios: how to reset a password, how to create a new user, and how to delete a user. Procedure number 1, reset password. Let me show you how we reset a password. So I've logged into the Office 365 Administration Center. This is the Administration Center for Hub 1. And as I'm the administrator, I'm going to reset a user's password. The way I do that is I expand users, and I go into active users. This will give me a list of all of my users, and here they are. You can see all of them there. All right, I'm going to take one of my users. Let me just go and find somebody. I'll scroll down. Here's a user here. And what I can do with that user is once I select them, on the right-hand side, I'll find a bunch of information. So if I select them, I can edit the user details, delete the user, or reset the password. So to reset the password, I click on Reset over on the right-hand side. I can get it to email me the new password for that user. And if I click on Reset, that email I receive will have a whole bunch of information on the new user, on allowing them to log into Office 365, and allowing them to download and use the Office pieces. So that's how to reset a password. Okay, so we've just reset a password. The next procedure is creating a new user. So that's kind of simple too. I'll show you how that works. I'm just going to go back to my active users. And you'll see here I have a little plus button. So I'm going to click on the plus button. It even says new. And I type in the user's information. So I'll do Bob Jones. And there we go. It comes, I'm just hitting tab to go to the next thing. It comes up with a display name. I'm going to put in the username, which is Bob. Now I can either have an auto-generated password or type one in. I'm going to choose to have an auto-generated password. And I can email the password to someone, and I'm going to give them an Office 365 E3 plan. And I have a bunch of different options available there because I have quite a few subscriptions. So I'm going to click create. And what that will do is that will generate that auto password. It will email it to Nick at Hub 1, and it will show me that that user's been created. So that user can now log in. Now with those temporary passwords, they will be forced to change that the first time they log in. So make sure you get your users to log into portal.office.com with the username and with their password. Okay, so that's the procedure and the demonstration for creating a new user. The next procedure is how to delete a user. So obviously we just created one in the last procedure, so I'm going to go delete that user. So you'll see on my list of users I now have Bob Jones. That was the user I just created. So I'll select it by clicking on the left, and to delete that user I just hit the delete button. And what happens when I do that is it's actually going to move that user into the deleted users section, and I have 30 days to recover that user if I want to. There's a whole heap of options I have there. So I deleted a user just by hitting delete. If I need to recover them, I go to deleted users. And there you see I have Bob Jones. I can select him and I can actually recover him if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that at this stage. One of the things as a HubOne customer you'll see is actually delegated administrators. And this means that HubOne are actually allowed to administer your platform. If for some reason you didn't want us to administer your platform, you can select HubOne under delegated admins and hit the little bin icon, and that will stop HubOne being a delegated admin for your site. So that's user management in Office 365. The next thing we're going to touch on is groups. And groups are ways of making mail flow to different aliases or different email addresses throughout your business. And there's 4 things we're going to touch on here today. The first thing we're going to touch on is an alias, and that's an email address that can be attached to a single mailbox. And single mailboxes can have multiple aliases. We're also going to talk about distribution groups, and that's a single email address that goes to many mailboxes. A shared mailbox is not just an email address, but it's a whole mailbox which can be accessed by lots of real users. For example, you could have a sales mailbox that 4 or 5 of your staff could access to see what was in there and send emails to and from. And finally, you can create resource mailboxes, which are really useful for meeting rooms or for what we call finite resources or equipment. So let's get into some demonstrations. Firstly, aliases. You can add as many email addresses under as many domains as you want to in Office 365, and you can add those email addresses to your users. Let me show you how. If I go to Office 365 Administration and go back to my active users, if I go and pick one of our users, I'll pick BPOS3 here, you see down the left I have primary email address. If I hit edit, that will bring up a bar on the right hand side that will allow me to add additional email addresses for whatever domains I have registered. So I could call this bpos@customers.hubone.com. Now if I add that and hit save, if you sent an email to bpos@customers.hubone.com, that will get to that user. So users can have as many aliases as they want. And that's how you configure aliases. Next, distribution lists. Distribution lists are groups inside or outside your organization that people can send email to, and those emails end up going to lots of different people. To set up a distribution list, if I go and choose groups down the left-hand side in Office 365, it says at the top, use distribution lists in Exchange to manage email distribution. I can click this Set up distribution lists and other Exchange groups to go and set up distribution lists. So I'm now logging into Exchange administration. And as that loads, I'm able to create groups. So I'm going to go and create a distribution group. Now, let me take you through this. The first thing you need to do is give your distribution group a name. I'm going to call this test group. Next, it needs an alias, which is used to generate the email address. I will use testy, and that creates an email address. Make sure you put a description so you know what it is when it appears in the address book. Notice I put in this is for testing. We can then put an owner of the group, and we can add members. Anybody who's a member will receive emails that are sent to that address. We then have some options for permissions, but I suggest you leave those as default for now. Once I hit save, that will create my distribution list, but watch out, it won't be able to receive email externally. It can only receive email internally. To allow it to receive email externally, I have to double click on the group again. I have to go to Delivery Management, and I have to choose Senders inside and outside my organization. Once I've done that, that's now saved, and that distribution group is working outside my organization. So that's how to set up distribution lists. Next, shared mailboxes. As I said, shared mailboxes allow you to have a mailbox that many people can access, where email can flow in and you can do normal mailbox management. The way that works, if I go back to the Office 365 Administration Center, if I go to Users, you see here I can manage shared mailboxes in Exchange. So let me click on that and do that. Right, so here's how I set up a shared mailbox. I'm going to hit Add. And then I can type in the name of the shared mailbox. Test shared. Right, and I'm going to allow Nick to have full access to that mailbox. There we go. I'm adding Nick in there, and I've now created a shared mailbox. Nick has full access. I also, if I want him to be able to send us that mailbox, need to give him Send As access. And there's some more options, but I won't worry about those for now. When I hit Save, that will go and create that mailbox, and it will also appear by default in Nick's Outlook. If you want that not to appear in Outlook, email support@hubone.com. Talk to our support team and they'll sort that out for you. So that's how we create a shared mailbox. Next is resource mailboxes. And resource mailboxes are used for rooms or they're used for equipment. Let me show you how to create those. All right, I'll just let my shared mailbox create from the last demonstration. Give it a second. All right, and we'll go back to Office 365 Administration. In the Exchange Admin Center, you see I'll also have this button called Resources. Right, that test shared mailbox just created there, you see that. And to add a room or an equipment, I hit Add, and I can add a room mailbox or an equipment mailbox. I'm going to add a room mailbox. Right, and I'm going to choose Meeting Room YA1. This is one of our meeting rooms, and I'll make it at hubone.com, and I can make its location Manly, and its capacity is 20 people. If I hit Save, that will create that room mailbox. And now when I go into Outlook, it will automatically accept or reject requests for that meeting room based on who's there, is it being used, and how many people are there. So that's how you create a room mailbox. Okay, resource mailboxes are done. We've gone through all the different group things. We're making great progress. Next, domains. The domain naming system, or DNS, translates names to addresses. That's why when you type in www.microsoft.com, your browser knows where to point things at. But DNS is used for a lot more. It's used for link, it's used for exchange, it's used for email, and all sorts of things. So DNS consists of a bunch of records which point things in various directions. So when I send an email to someone at Microsoft.com, I know where that email will go because of the MX record for Microsoft.com. We use that in Office 365 to add and remove domains and configure the various options for our domains. Let's have a look at how that works and have a quick look at domain management. Right, so I'm going to log back into the Administration Center, and let me go back into Office 365 Administration. So, as you can see here, there's a bunch of different domains which have either been set up or not set up. Domains have a lot of different DNS records that work around them to make them work. In fact, if I go and have a look at hubone.com, you'll see there's a bunch of records here that either make link work or make Exchange Online work. Our MX record, you see here, allows email to point to our our domain. So when you set up a domain, you're asked to create your first record, which is a TXT record. That proves to Office 365 that you own that domain. And from there, it will configure it, allow you to create aliases and users, and then ask you to set up the other records so other Office 365 works properly. Okay, let's move on now to link management. There's not a lot to administer with link, but there are a few things, so let me take you through them. If I go back to Office 365 Administration, under Admin on the top right, I can choose Link. That will take me to the Link Administration Center, and I'll take you through the various menu options and what they do. First of all, your users will be grabbed from Office 365, and all of your users will appear here. Next, under Organization, we have a couple of options. First of all, to display presence information or not, and we've chosen to display presence information to everybody. We also have the ability to choose whether we do mobile phone notifications for Link on the Windows mobile phone or on the Apple iPhone or iPad. In external communications, we can choose whether we can access public instant messaging services such as Skype or allow access to other organizations. And at Hub One, we've turned on external communications, which is what we recommend. There are options for dial-in conferencing. Those aren't currently available in Australia, so we'll leave those. And we can also add content to meeting invitations. For example, you see our help URL. We have no legal URL, and we have something saying Hub One Link meetings can be recorded. Finally, if you have issues with Link, there's a whole bunch of tools you can use here to actually configure and make things work with Skype contacts and other organizations. So there, if I was to click here, this will give us some information on how to set up and let it work with Skype and all sorts of other things. Here we go. Okay, so that's link management. The next one is SharePoint administration. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the things we need to administer in SharePoint and Office 365. And there's only two things you need to administer, mainly. There are obviously a bunch of more complex things you can do, but the two things you need to administer is storage and administrators. Let me show you how to do that. I've clicked Admin. I've gone into SharePoint. So this is SharePoint administration. And what this loads up is the various sites I have. Two things you need to be able to do here. First of all, when your sites run out of space, you can assign additional storage by clicking on the site and clicking the Storage Quota button. Okay, the other thing you're going to need to be able to do is set administrators. And the way you do that is you click, again, select the site, choose Owners, and Manage Administrators. And this allows you quickly to add people to your site and give them administration rights so they can see what's going on and they can work with it. Okay, that takes you through the SharePoint administration training. I hope you've enjoyed it. Any questions? Back to our support team at hub1.zendesk.com or email support@hub1.com. Have a great day.